So today I'm going to have a quick look at this Panasonic RQ SX75V personal cassette radio player. This was my third and final. I had an Iowa recording model originally. Then I had a very expensive Sony, which I shouldn't have spent so much on, considering how long it lasted. Well, anyway, and this was the only one I've got left, which is this Panasonic. It was working at some point until I put it in the drawer and started using digital stuff, I've just got it out after many years, and it's not working. So the radio is fine. That turns on. I've obviously tried the headphones, and audio is fine. But if we switch to tape, it tries to play and gives an error. Okay, nothing doing there. If we try to wind, makes a nasty noise and turns off. Rewind, makes a noise for a bit longer and turns off. So I don't know what's going on there. I mean, I'm sure at least the belts will have deteriorated, so I'm hoping maybe that's it, but you know, might be something else wrong as well. So I'm going to take it apart. I mean, one good thing about this is that it uses a single AAA battery, not a proprietary gumstick type, which are harder to get. So that is at least in its favour. A bit scratched from where I dropped it. Kind of a mid-range model, I guess you'd say. Certainly not the highest end. I mean, you can see the size is not as thin as the thinnest in either Sony or Panasonic's range, and it's all plastic, so it doesn't have the high-quality metal feel. But still, it'd be nice to get working. So let's take it apart and see what we find. So I just want to record here what I had to do to get the unit apart. So obviously first thing I did was remove all the screws that I could see from the case. There's some inside as well, so for example here, and then there's a couple underneath the head mechanism as well, but it still wouldn't seem to budge. This block here was clearly separate from the plastic, and I could see there was clips here and here, but it still wouldn't move. So what I eventually found was, let me move it closer to the light. So there were plastic clips here. This is actually the ferrite rod for the AM tuner, but just down there and there are plastic clips. The black plastic hook into the metal, and you have to remove the connector for the battery. That just slides off a little bit of force. It comes off, and then that means that the metal can go in, and then that whole unit can be pushed up like so, and it'll start to come out. And so now I've got two hands. It will slide out of that bottom there, and there we go. So some very small components, and the display. This looks like some ceramic filters for the FM section. The motor, I guess, you can just see one of the tiny little capstans. Well, the motor's moving. Okay, so the belts must be at least partially okay. So I guess I'm going to have to see how you separate this a bit further. You can just about see the thin layers there. Okay, I'm going to have to do some more investigation on how to get this apart. Alright, a bit of progress. So there are 5 tiny screws on the circuit board. Obviously remove those. The head assembly has a single connector here which just conveniently pulls out of this here, which is good because then it stops it flopping about and getting damaged. Now the board itself still seems to be attached somehow along the edge here where the smallest ferrite rod that I've ever seen is. Haven't quite worked out. It feels like there's some screw around there that I can't see. Something underneath there. Anyway, I'm wondering whether I need to go any further, because I can just about I think I probably do there, because I can see the belts, and there's 2. There's one that goes from this capstan. There's not enough light here. There's one from this capstan here to this plastic wheel, this white wheel. That one I can remove like so. Okay, let's have a feel of that. It's very thin. Look how tiny that is. And doesn't feel very strong. I mean, it does go back into shape, but I'm not confident that that will. Oh, that bit fell off. Okay. I would really like to get to that mechanism and check its functioning and lubricating. But that second, I don't know whether you can see this on the camera. This capstan here, there's a belt that goes inside to somewhere there. That little thin motor. Wow. How do I remove that even? I don't know. Okay, well that's the next challenge. I'm going to have to somehow get this apart further, because there's a spring here that's come off the top of that white cog there. I don't know what that presses up against even. Just that maybe? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's come off. Maybe it just goes back on. I don't know. But still, this motor, how does one get that out? See, it's screwed on there, I think. Are they screws? No, those look like rivets. Or something. Yeah, mysterious. Okay, yep, I managed to unsolder that quite easily, and this whole motor module came out with the belt, of course. So we've got screws here, so just a matter of taking those out. So this is interesting. So once I'd taken out the screws there, this section slid out, which means, okay, the primary goal was to remove the belt, but this is fascinating. How thin this like mini circuit board is that connects these tiny, I don't know whether you can see, these are coils. These are the coils that form the motor. Yeah, I've never taken one of these tiny motors apart before. Interesting. But so I'm going to have to measure these belts and try and get some tiny belts to replace them. I think they're obviously not completely disintegrated, but they don't feel very strong, even considering how thin they are. So I think I think I'm going to have to get some replacements anyway. Alright, so I managed to lose the video where I explained how to remove the PCB. So I'm just going to note here that I did manage to work out how to take this apart. These are solder connections from the motor that just come up like that, and these are the ones I didn't notice for a while. Here and here there's a little screen here which comes off, and then that means that whole board comes off with the little tiny ferrite on that plastic thing there, and so you can see the underside of the board. Might give the volume control a bit of contact cleaner just for good measure while I'm here. Oh, there seems to be some trimmer there. Is it coil? Don't know, can't see. But so that comes off anyway and gives you access to the you can see the solenoid connections there that came up through the PCB. I'll have a look at the mechanism, and so the thing I've got to work out is this spring here that sat there. How did that work? How does that stay there? I'm not sure yet. So what I didn't notice was this black piece of plastic, black ring, was just sort of sitting over here somewhere, and must have popped off. So I think this is what it should be. This white ring is the clutch mechanism. At the underside there's a tiny, very thin piece of felt, so that's the clutch, and this black ring sits nicely on top, and I think the spring has to be this way with the smaller diameter end down. I think it must just push, I don't know, against the plastic inside that hole. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to, because there's nothing else for it to rest against. But anyway, I have to see when I put it back together again. Thing to note, there's a piece of plastic there with a little ridge. Now that is going to move according to the state of the mechanism, and that's going to have to fit in inside there, or the other side of that is this tiny switch, so I've got to make sure that lines up. And then I mentioned I was going to do some contact cleaner. I might also look at this switch here, which the operator can switch there, and this push button switch, that must be triggered by something. Let's see, where would that go? That would go somewhere here, something there moving. I'm not sure what that would be. That would go through there. Maybe that's just a cassette sensor. I think that just senses there's a cassette in, something like that. Yeah. So now this ferrite rod has just come loose. There's a bit of glue that's no longer sticky, so I'll make sure that's firm, and then really I'm waiting for the bands to come in the post, and then I'll try and reassemble. Another thing I've just noticed, if I turn the spool, you can see that this cog moves this cog here, which is partially black, partially silvered. Okay, and that sits underneath the other side, and that there looks to me like a combined infrared transmitter receiver. So I think that will take the reflectivity of the silver and the non-reflectivity of the black, and give pulses, which is how it will detect whether the reel is moving or not. It's very tiny. I really love these very delicate mechanisms. It's amazing how delicate they are. Right, well, after the belts arrived, I put the project on the back burner for a very long time. Actually, I got busy and it kind of got forgotten a bit. Anyway, I have now put the belts in and put the circuit board back. I've put a battery in there and just taped it in so it doesn't fall out. So let's take one of my tapes, the SA90, that were the standard that I used back in the day, and let's see what it will do with it. Let's get that in there. Okay, oh, that's a good sign. It's wound the tape, got rid of any slack, and okay. So there we go. I've got the metal tape equalization there. You can change that by holding down this button here. I think it's a bit fiddly. There we are. Yeah, that turns that on and off. And then Dolby with a short press. A long press is the metal normal setting. So, well, that's playing, and let's see if we can reverse mode. Yep. So that's playing quite nicely. So I think we can say that's done the job. I mean, on classical music you can definitely hear wow and flutter, but with these devices with tiny little flywheels, that's to be expected. So in the meantime, I did actually find a service manual, which would have saved me a lot of time if I'd have found it before I assembled it. But anyway, it does quote the wow and flutter to be 0.23%, which is pretty high. But as I say, all these personal stereos had a figure around that. Frequency response is quoted at 40 to 18 kilohertz at 6 dB down, which isn't terrible for this type of device, I suppose, given that FM radio would cut off at 15k. Talking about the radio, that I've tested, that works okay. FM is rather congested, and you get a lot of bleed through in this area. There's a lot of stations, and probably the image response is not great on this tuner, but still. Now, one thing I'd want to do when you change the bands, it's often a good idea to check the speed, and that's the speed adjustment there, little tiny trimmer. Unfortunately, I can't find my test tape anywhere. No doubt I will find it once I put the cover back on, but there you go. And then the only other adjustment you've got is this RF coil, which is the AM tracking. So that's just used to maximize the AM signal for the low end. It says tune to the low end, and with a signal generator, or I just used an AM station at the bottom end and maximize the signal. The FM section, there's some adjustment. It says adjusting these coils, but clearly there's nothing really you can adjust other than try to separate the coils windings, but I'm not going to do that. I don't think it's worth trying to fiddle out. I'm likely to break more than fix anything. So I think I'm going to put it back together again. I mean, it's playing. It's probably as good as I'm going to be able to get it. The other thing to note is the heads are fixed on the module, and one part of the service manual says that, well, that it's one module that's replaced in one unit. This head assembly block here. Strangely, another part of the service manual. Oh yeah, and there we go. That's another section there. Another section further on, it gives an adjustment for the azimuth, which is absolutely impossible and contradictory. So I don't know whether these different parts were from a different manual that got confused. I don't know, but I don't know. Anyway, so you can't adjust it even if you wanted to on this block. Yeah, it is a bit noisy physically. I mean, I don't know whether you can hear that on the microphone. It's kind of grinding noise from the cogs. It'll obviously be a bit quieter with the case on. But yeah, again, I don't think I can do anything about that. I can't remember how noisy it was originally. So I think before I break something else, I think I'm just going to put it together, and yeah, that's it. Alright, thanks for watching.